Hello and welcome to HakSploit. On today's first ever session of HakSploit, we're going to explain to you how to download, install, and the basic pre-setup that you need to do for Kali Linux. Kali Linux is basically a distro that's been created to allow you to do penetration testing. It's got all the software pre-installed as part of it, and it can be run as a live CD or USB, or you can install directly. Today we're going to install it directly into a virtual machine, but you can just basically install it straight onto your computer or dual boot it or whatever you fancy like doing. So to begin with, first off you need to go to your internet browser and browse to kali.org. So that's www.kali.org. I will put the web address in the description for you, so you can just copy and paste it straight in. Once you browse to this page, you need to go to Downloads and select the Download Kali Linux. That'll load up and you've got your selection of downloads below here. Obviously choose which download you want based on your architecture. So you've got 64-bit, 32-bit. You can also pick the mini ones. I wouldn't really recommend downloading them unless you're really desperate for space, as it needs to pull most of the information off the internet. Obviously you can get an ISO or a torrent. It's completely up to you which one you want to do. I always download just the ISO. So click on the ISO that you want. I want 64-bit, so I'll click on that one. And then obviously just click save. I've already downloaded this, so I'm not going to download it again. Once you've downloaded it, decide how you're going to install it. Are you going to put it onto a CD and boot from CD? Are you going to put it onto a USB stick and boot from USB? One tip I will give, if you are going to install it onto a USB and boot from the USB, use UNet booting. There is the multi-boot Yummy tool, but for some reason it doesn't like Kali when you try and install it from it. So if you are going to do it by USB, I would say use the UNet booting software. If you've not heard of that, just put it into Google and it'll come up with the software for you. It's pretty simple to use. You shouldn't have too many problems trying to use that. So anyway, we've got our ISO image now. I'm going to actually do it in virtual software, which if you're sort of new to penetration testing or you just want to have a look at it, I would probably recommend you use some sort of virtualization software. Maybe not VMware, maybe download something like Virtual PC, which is free obviously, and pretty simple to use. So I'm just going to create quickly a virtual machine to go through. Yes, that's the right image. I'm just going to call it Kali Linux. Next on there. Yeah, 20 gig will do. We'll have it as a single file. Obviously, if you're booting directly from it, just ignore this part. Power on the machine after creation. So that's just going to boot up now for us. Just finish install and get rid of that. Okay, so once you boot it up, whichever way you've decided to boot it up, you'll come up with this screen. Couple of options. If you want to just see what it looks like first, you can just go to the live options. If you want to use a live USB, there's the persistent option, which basically means it's going to run as a live CD, but it's going to give you the ability to save it as you go along. And then obviously you've got install and graphical install. They're both pretty much exactly the same. As you can probably guess, install is pretty much basic layout, while as graphical install is a lot more graphical. For this example, I'm actually going to use graphical, but the options should be the same regardless of which one you use. That's going to quickly boot up now. Just a little bit of setup. There we go, and it's starting to boot up. So the first thing you'll get to ask is obviously to select your language. Obviously English for myself. Click continue. Choose which part of the world you're from. United Kingdom. This will be to do mainly with your keyboard and your regional settings, etc. Keyboard mapping, so British English. It's now just going to detect the hardware, run through a few little things here. It's going to add a few additional components to allow it to basically install for you. So we'll just let that run through quickly. And now it's just going to do the detection of the network hardware. Okay, the next screen you'll get is please enter the host name for this system. Basically, just whatever you want to call it. So, I mean, this is perfectly fine for me. I'm just going to leave it as Kali for now. But you can put whatever you want just to identify it on your network. You don't have to put a domain name in, domain name even. If you want to put one in, whatever, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't make any huge difference. I don't know why this little thing keeps deciding it wants to come up. Just get rid of that silly box there. Remind me later, whatever. Sorry about that. Right, okay, so once you get to the screen, press continue. Right, now you're going to set, getting twisted in my words. Here, you're going to set your root password. So this is basically the admin level password. I would suggest you pick something very strong. I mean, it doesn't have to be ridiculously strong, but pick a strong password. So I'm just going to put one in now quickly. I can type. Before people say yes, it's not a very strong password, I know, but it will do. Once you've done that, press continue. Going to go through a little bit more config, just configuring the clock, detecting the disks, etc. Okay, you get this screen, you've got a couple of options. Guided, use the entire disk, so basically what that's going to do is it's just going to use the entirety of the disk. So depending on how big your disk is, it's just going to basically put it over the whole thing. Guided, use the entire disk and set up local volume manager. Completely up to you if you want to use that. And then you can use exactly the same one but with encrypted or manual. Manual basically allows you to do your own partition tables. So for example, if you were using Windows as well and you want to do it as a dual boot, you probably want to be using manual. I'm just going to use entire disk here and press continue. It's going to ask you which disk you want to use and to be aware that it is going to erase it all. So we're just going to use that one. Do you want all your files in one partition? Do you want to separate them? Do you want to separate basically every little area? For the purposes of this, I'm just going to use all in one partition. Some people might prefer to have their home partition, which is basically your user's area in a separate area. Personally, I don't really see any difference in it. I'm just going to leave it all as one and press continue. That's just going to partition the disks. Are we happy with the setup? Yes, we are. So we just go finish partitioning and write changes to disk. If you continue, the below is going to be written to disk. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes, we do. So we're just going to click yes and press continue. And that's now going to start partitioning the disks and starting to install the system for you. Now this is going to start installing. It's going to take a little bit of time to install. So just leave your machine while it installs. I'll leave you here while that does installation. I'll come back to you once it's finished. Okay, so the install is now finished and we're back to this screen here, which is asking us if we want to configure the packet manager. It's basically asking you, do you want to put on the newer versions of the software? So it's going to go out to the internet, download them automatically for you. I would recommend that you do this. It's asking to use a network mirror, so in other words, using any kind of proxy server or anything. We're not, so we're going to click no. Press continue. Configuring apt, which is basically the packet software. Package even. And that's just retrieving all the files now. Again, depending on the speed of your internet, it may be slower, it may even be quicker. So we'll just let that run through. It's now going to start to install the Grub bootloader. So that's basically just the bootload, so it can load the operating system. If you was to dual boot this, you would get basically a different loader at the beginning, and it'll ask you whether you want to pick between Kali Linux, Windows, Ubuntu, any other versions of Linux you've got installed. Obviously this screen is just saying this is the only operating system I've got on the system, so it'll be safe to install it. However, if you did have, for example, Windows, there is a chance that it can corrupt the bootloader and you won't be able to get into Windows. I've never really had any issues where that's happened, but it is just a warning just to let you know. So are you happy to install the Grub loader? Yes. So press continue. That's going to now start to install it again. And we'll just let that run through. It's going to update it. And hopefully in a second, that should be completed. It is. So it's just finishing off the installation, basically removing the stuff it's used to install. Cleaning the system up, and this will just take a couple of seconds, and hopefully in a minute now it should finish. Typically when you're trying to do a video to explain to other people how to use something, it runs as slow as possible. It's finished now. So it's saying installation is complete, basically telling you to take out your CD or USB, whatever you've used to install it. Obviously as we're using a virtual machine, it doesn't really matter. So once that's done, just press continue. It's going to carry on removing all the live package stuff, and then hopefully in a minute we'll be able to reboot and go straight into Kali. Just let that run through. Again, it's still deciding to go on and go slow. Okay, so it's rebooted now and we're loading back into Grub. So as soon as it's loaded, you will get presented with this screen. What you need to do is select the top option and let that run through. And now it's just going to boot into Kali Linux for the first time. Just let this screen run through. It's basically just going to start all the services and make sure everything's running okay. Okay, once it's been booted up and everything, you'll come to the login screen, which we'll see in a second. Here we go. So this will load up, click on other, and we're going to log in with root, so that's just type in root. And next you need to type in the password that you set at the beginning. press OK to log in. It'll take a few moments for the first boot just to load up the operating system. And there we go, that's Kali Linux now installed. The last thing that you need to do is to just update and upgrade it. So basically all you need to do is to open up terminal, which is this little icon up here, and in the little command box there just type sudo apt-get update, and that's basically just going to update all the repositories. This is basically where Kali Linux gets all its software from. So just let that run through. Once that's completed, you need to do the same thing again. So you can just press up, take out where it says update and put upgrade. So that is sudo apt-get upgrade, and then press return. So now I'm going to tell you everything that it's going to upgrade and ask you whether you want to continue. So as you can see here, 110 upgraded, no newly installed, none to remove, and 9 not upgraded. It's going to need 655 megabytes after this operation, and 24.1 megabytes of additional disk space will be used. You want to continue, just press yes and press enter. That's now going to run through basically and download all of this and update it all for you. I'd recommend you probably do this every so often anyway, just to make sure you've got the most up-to-date software and also the most up-to-date security patches. That's basically it now. That's everything set up, installed, and we're ready to go. In the next videos we'll go through a basic overview of the different features of Kali Linux, and a few more sort of setups and housekeeping things. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give us a like and also subscribe for the new videos that will be coming out. Any comments or questions, feel to put them below. I'll try to answer any questions that you have. Hope you enjoyed the video, and tune in next time when we'll go through how to go through Kali Linux. Thank you, bye.